Hirlock, and Minister, thank you for coming to the House again. And I'm just going to speak briefly. This sounds like a really technical amendment, which sounds boring and irrelevant and maybe unimportant, but it is so critically important to the work that you're doing, that the government is doing in terms of changing housing policy. Affordable cost rental is a brand new model of housing in Ireland that will provide both affordability and security of tenure for renters. That's critically important. Nowhere more so, I suppose, than here in Dublin, where you know, Minister, there are many people who are not qualifying for social housing because their income is just above the social housing income threshold, but they can't afford to live and to pay rent. So the introduction for the first time in the history of the state of affordable cost rental housing, not just in Dublin, but nationally, is very welcome. It's an issue that myself and my colleagues on Dublin City Council had championed well over a year ago, 2 years ago in fact, and I have to say, and you're familiar with the site, Minister O'Devany Gardens, within my constituency, that has the capacity to deliver more than 1,000 homes. That's a site where, when we as councillors tried to amend the proposal for the site to ensure that there would be a minimum 80% social and affordable on the site, including 30% of it affordable cost rental, we were challenged by the opposition. We were threatened actually with legal action by the opposition. So I really appreciate that you're taking the action to legislate for affordable cost rental. It's been spoken about for a very long time by many politicians, but you're actually implementing it. This government is implementing it and will make it available right around the country on a national basis. And it's critically important that our local authorities, I accept that there will be others who will be in a position to provide affordable cost rentals, sustainable investment funds, ethical investment funds. They're important. But our local authorities are closest to our local communities. And our local authorities, in undertaking their housing needs assessments, will now be able to include in those housing needs assessment affordable cost rental. So I welcome this development, Minister. I thank you for the work that you and all of your officials have done. And Minister, I would urge you to use your position at Cabinet to influence the Minister for Finance and the Minister for Public Expenditure and others to ensure that the local authorities are funded, because we need to scale this up massively. As you said yourself, 25 affordable cost rental homes were made available last week. There was more than 500 applications. That proves, that validates the action you're taking as a minister, the action this government is taking to change the provision of housing in our country. But what it also sends is a really strong message to all of us that we need to scale it up massively. And that's what I'm sure you intend to do in Housing for All, and I wish you well with your work. Gur Mágat.
Thank you very much, Senator Fitzpatrick. Minister, do you want to reply to the amendments in Group 2, the responses?
No, just to say it is, thank colleagues for their comments, and the cost rental piece is incredibly important. I agree with Senator Fitzpatrick. I want to see it scaled up massively. This is a start. We wanted, proof of concept. That's why it's so important that we've, even the first 25, we're going to have 8 schemes across the country within the coming months as well. And there's been an incredible amount of work done within the department on this as well in a short space of time. And from this we'll build onwards. But I would encourage all members to obviously use all their influence with the Minister for Finance and the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, because the more resources I get, the more of this we can do. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Minister. I now call on you to speak to the subject matter of the amendments in Group 3, which, for the benefit of members, are Amendments 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Keirley. I'll now address 6 and 7, which are both government amendments concerning the cost rental provisions. Amendment 6 inserts language to illustrate matters which, under Section 33, the Minister may prescribe as mandatory terms in every cost rental tenancy agreement. Just as with social housing, it will not be the Minister who is the landlord for cost rental. However, the power to prescribe mandatory terms in tenancy agreements will allow the Minister to ensure that there are common standards right across the sector. It's our intention that there will be only one cost rental sector in Ireland subject to the same regulation regardless of who the landlord is. It was always intended that these mandatory terms would cover key points like the setting and review of rent, tenant security, security of tenure in line with provisions in the bill. However, it is prudent to make this explicit and also to provide that the Minister may prescribe other incidental matters, the little details which need to be concluded for cost rental, to become a working reality. But we will have, by the passing of this legislation, a national cost rental scheme. We'll publish the regulations around the criteria and eligibility in the coming weeks as well, both for this and for the affordable purchase. Amendment 7 clarifies a point concerning the limited rent increases under the cost rental model. A tenant will make their first monthly rent payment at the new higher rate at least 28 days after receipt of a valid rent review notice rather than the date on which it was issued. A tenant will therefore have at least 4 weeks in which to make, for example, arrangements with a bank to alter a standing order. The notice period will run as is most prudent from when the tenant receives the notice document. Even though a monthly rent payment will fall within the 4-week notice period, the tenant does not have to pay the new higher rent rate. They can pay at the old rate and then settle the small difference with the landlord any time during the following 3 months. While this may differ from the rent review system in the private rental sector, this should not be surprising. We should think of cost rental as a new system with its own processes and timetables, and this amendment will make the process run far more smoothly for the tenant and indeed the landlord alike.
Thank you very much.